Okay, so we're going to start. So welcome to the session, everyone. For this session, we are going to discuss now about how to accelerate and optimize project releases using automation. So hi everyone, I'm Sujeet Pathak. I'm a senior product manager at Amoeboids Technologies. Amoeboids is a technology startup from Pune, India, and we are a Platinum Atlassian Marketplace Partners. And we have a bunch of apps live in Atlassian Marketplace. Today, I'm joined by my colleague Tejashree Vaze, and she's available in the chats. So, any questions during the session you have, feel free to put them to us in the chat section, and Tejashree and me will be happy to answer your queries. Of course, at the end, we'll also have a Q&A session for 5 minutes. So you can also ask questions at that time, but don't keep your questions to yourself, keep them coming through chats. So to begin with, this is our agenda for today. So we'll briefly cover what is a typical release management process looks like, and what are the areas of automation through which you can optimize that process. So obviously, we are going to focus on release notes part of the release management process, and why we should write release notes and how to avoid common mistakes. And then we'll see a live demo of our application called Automated Release Notes for Jira. And then we'll share a couple of reference materials in the chats for you to refer after the session. And then, of course, at the end, we'll have a brief Q&A round where you can ask us any questions. So let's start. Any software development organization, we have releases, especially when world is moving to agile. There are a number of releases have increased, and so for each release, you have certain steps that you follow. It's a typical release management cycle that I'm currently showing on the screen. So where you plan for some items, then you start building them, and then your QA team starts testing on them. And then there is a step where you have to create a substantial documentation around your release. So be it a release notes or any help documentation, and then you actually go for the deployments so that your users can use those features that you developed. So of course, we cannot speak on each of these items in this in this span of 45 minutes. So we'll focus on the main area of release note generation and distribution in this presentation. So what is release notes? So why it is really important? So it's really important. I know you have a good standard release notes, distributed to all your stakeholders whenever you have releases in your software program, because it helps you to convey what are the changes that you are doing to the software, and what are the new features that you are releasing, what are the bugs that you are fixing, and maintaining a good a standard process of release drafting and distribution of release notes always helps in the long run. So again, why one should write release notes? Like I mentioned, it helps you to communicate with your stakeholders in a better way, helps you to communicate what are the advantages of new features that you are releasing, or inform your customers about the new changes that you have brought in. Your internal teams, like your marketing team or your sales team, they can be aligned with what are the new things that you are releasing, and they can align their marketing pitch accordingly. You can also use release notes to communicate certain things to your internal stakeholders, like your QA team or dev team. You can keep them informed about the releases, upcoming releases or ongoing releases, and so that they can align their priorities accordingly. There are a few things that we should be mindful while drafting release notes. It should not be too technical. Sometimes they are too vague, so users don't understand what really the message is, or what are the things that they need to focus on. If it is too long, again it loses the focus by the reader, and they should not be hard to find. So if it is really difficult for your customers to find release notes, then of course there is no point of doing this exercise after every release. Recently, we had a survey we had done a survey of around 300 plus project managers and product managers globally. And one of the questions from that survey was about the release notes. So we asked them whether you whether you read everything in the release notes or you just read specifics. So there is a mixed response to this. Some said that 57% respondents said that they read everything in the release notes, while 43% said that they read only specifics. So this tells us that not everyone have the same approach while reading out the release notes. So people are sometimes looking for some specific information, and sometimes people are just trying to gauge complete software by reading everything. So this tells us that whenever you draft and release notes, you should try to customize your release notes to the intended stakeholders. So if you are trying to write release notes for your customers, then your customers might be only focused in knowing what are the new features that they are going to get, or any bugs that were there in the software are getting fixed. While your internal team, for example, your CTO is there, they might be interested in what are the in-sprint bugs that came in, and what are the structural or database level changes that you have done in this release. So every stakeholder looks at your release notes from their own point of view. So you should try to customize release notes according to the audience. So it will help them to find the relevant information in your release notes. So some of the best practices that you should always keep it simple. Show the core value of your releases, then incorporate some visual elements so to make it more appropriate and easy for the users to understand. Implement a change log. So there is a difference between our release notes and change log. We have a separate blog post on our blog for this. Of course, it's not possible to cover everything in this session. Then you should try to segment your release note. Like I mentioned, you should try to customize them according to the stakeholders, so you can have a repository of release notes targeted to your customers, which is helpful for them, and which is handy, easily recognizable, and they can find it easily on your website or within your application. And you should use appropriate app. So the last point is that you should be not doing everything manually. Like I mentioned, if you are going to customize your release notes for each stakeholder, it's not advisable to do it manually, to draft all the release notes and then publish them through different channels manually. So you should be using a good application which will help you to automate this whole process of generation and distribution of release notes. We at Amoeboids, we have created an app called automated release notes, which helps you to automate your process of generating and distribution of release notes. So this is a Jira based application where you can directly pull data from your Jira tickets and draft your release notes automatically. So you can draft them in different formats, be it in email format or a PDF or a Confluence page. Then you can distribute those release notes to different channels, communication channels. So suppose your customers are available on your Confluence documentation space, so you can publish release notes for them in the Confluence. While your internal stakeholders, suppose they are available on the email, then you can schedule an email to internal stakeholders. So accordingly, there are different type of communication medium through which you can distribute those release notes. Then you can obviously, like I mentioned, you can customize them for different stakeholders and automate the distribution of them. You can also, not just release notes, but your day-to-day, daily, weekly reports that you generate from your Jira, you can automate that process as well using automated release notes for Jira application. We have a cloud and server, both applications, and in cloud, we also have a free version of our app. So, you can straight away start, exploring this app on Jira, the free version of it, and there is no payment involved. Lifetime free version is also available. So now we'll head for a quick demo. I will show the quick demo of the actual application, and then we will discuss further use cases of this app, and then we will head for the Q&A session. Of course, we'll have a Q&A session at the end, but during the demo as well, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them at us in the chats. I have my colleague Tejasri to answer your queries on the go. while I'm doing this demo. So here we go. I'm within my Jira project, and the project name is Automated Release Notes, obviously. And in this project, in this left navigation panel, you can see there is a link for this application called Automated Release Notes. And when you click on this link, the app opens up, and this is how it looks like. So there are a bunch of tabs there. One is calendar, rules, templates, release pages, logs, and help. The first one is the calendar tab, where you can see all the releases that you have already created in your Jira for this project. And you can see placeholders for these releases. You can click on them, and you can see what number of issues that are included in that release and their status as well. So this data is auto-populated from your Jira versions, and you don't have to do anything. ARN automatically captures this data and show it on this calendar. Next, I will go to the templates tab. This is where you can create templates for your release notes. So you can create release notes in different formats. So suppose I click on create option here. You can see an option to create templates in different formats like email, PDF, Confluence, JSON, HTML, Markdown, JSD announcement. So JSD has now become JSM. So you can also publish an announcement on your JSM, Jira Service Management portal as well. On the right hand side, you can see there is a gallery of ready to use templates. So we have provided a few templates which you can use readily. You can preview those templates here and use them right away. If you don't want to use those templates from the gallery, you can create your own from the scratch. So as you can see, I'm in the create email template mode right now, and there is a editor where you can build your template yourself. So what I will do now, I will show you a template that I created a few minutes back, and I will explain you the further details of this, how you can build a template in ARN. So this is how it looks like, the template builder form, what we call it as. In this template, you can, this is a full-fledged Visvik editor. Here you can draft your release notes template in different format. You can, do all kind of editing, whether it's headings are there, or you can change fonts or font colors, alignment. You can include tables or images. So you can include your logo as well. You can see there are some text which are included between these square brackets. These are nothing but variables. So these are the data points which will get replaced when you actually run this template. So you can see these are all like version description, project name, version name, or release date. These are the metadata around the release that you have already created in Jira. So whenever you run this template for a particular Jira version, the information in these variables get replaced by the corresponding Jira version information. So if I give an input of say version 1, then this version name variable will get replaced by the version name called version 1. Whatever the release date that is set while creating that version in Jira, this release date variable will get replaced by that value. So accordingly, these variables then get replaced. You can see there are a bunch of variables that we are supporting in ARN. So there are some user specific variables. There are some Jira project specific variables like project name or project ID. Version specific variables like version name, version description, release date, version URL. If you are using sprint within Jira, you can also include sprint related variables there. There are some date and time related variables and Confluence related variables are there. Next one, here you can see there are a bunch of sections that are created according to the issue types. So there is one section for stories, then new feature, improvement, tasks, and bugs. We call them as JQL sections. So let's see what is this all about. So if I go to edit this JQL section, you can see there are three tabs here: section, fields, and layout. So this is where you can actually pull any kind of data from your Jira tickets to your release note document. So just imagine that you want to draft the release notes for your release, and there are around 50 tickets included in your release. So it's really cumbersome and tedious work to do to fetch all the relevant data from those 50 tickets and put it into a single document. So this is where ARN helps you to automate this process, and this is done with the help of JQL. So while using Jira, you must have come across the term called JQL, so Jira Query Language, through which you can filter out specific tickets from Jira. So you must be using it on day-to-day basis within your project as well. So the same JQL is been used here, but we have tweaked it a little bit. So as you can see here, we have included those variables in the JQL as well. So project is equal to project ID, and issue type is equal to story, and fixed version is equal to version ID. So when this template actually runs for a particular version, this version ID variable get replaced by its actual value. Same, the project ID then gets replaced, and then this JQL section will pull all the issues which are of the type story from the input version. So if I give an input of version 1, so from version 1, whatever whichever there are issues which are of the type story, they will get pulled into this JQL section. So the first step basically defines which are those Jira tickets you want to pull in your release notes document. The next part is fields. So now suppose I have got those 10 stories from my version from this JQL. Now from those 10 tickets, which are the data points I want to pull in my release notes. So this field section actually helps you to define those data points. So you can include Jira fields here, which you want to pull in your release notes documents. So you can include any Jira field that is available on your Jira project, whether it be it a default Jira field or a custom field. You can include any of those fields. So for example, I have included 3 fields here: the key field, issue key field, then issue summary field, and there is a custom field that we use for our internal purposes called description for public release notes. So these are the 3 fields that I have included right now. So now we decided which are those issues that I want. So I got those issues, let's say 10 stories in the release. From those 10 stories, I want these 3 data points. Now the next question is how I want to represent these data points into my release notes. So here you can define the layout. There are 2 options for this. You can either have a tabular layout or a sequential layout. Tabular layout is a straightforward thing where you can, all these fields, key, summary, and description, they will form 3 different columns, and all the issues, those 10 tickets, suppose we are pulling from our Jira version, they will form as a rows for that table. But if you don't want to use that tabular format, you can go for sequential format. So when you select the sequential format, you are prompted to create your own layout here. So you can create your layout. You can use the variables of those fields that you have already added in this field tab. So for example, I have included 2 fields here: summary and description. For summary, I have used heading 2 customization, and so let me do it again. And let's say if I want to change some font here, and then description, I will keep it as it is. So this is how I can define my own layout here. I can include any field that I want here in this layout. So I'll save this JQL section called stories now. Similar way, we have defined these few more JQL section: new feature, improvements, tasks, bugs. This bugs JQL section will pull all the bugs that are there in my release. And for this, I have kept the tabular format. So now let me save this template and let me preview this for you by giving an input of an actual release, so that you can see how the data from your Jira tickets get pulled into your release notes document. So I have clicked on preview. On preview, now the system is asking me to input the version. So here I can see all the versions that are created in Jira under this project called automated release notes. You can filter out this list by their status of those versions, like whether they are unreleased or released or archived. So for example, I will select this recent release we had in the last week called 27 September 2022, and I will click on preview. So when I click on preview, based on this version input, all the variables that were there in my template are now have not got replaced by their actual value. So you can see version name variable is now replaced by the name of actual version. This is the release date variable. This is the project name variable. And now here at the bottom, you can see that issues data from my Jira tickets have been pulled in this release notes. So this is the first issue that was there in the stories called support for modern authentication for Office 365 SMTP. And this is the description of that Jira ticket. And there is an image in the description as well, which is pulled in the release notes. This is the second issue that was there in the release. And then there was a bugs JQL section, which has pulled data of all the bugs that were there in the ticket in the version, and it has reproduced them in the tabular format. So this is how you can do it either in sequential layout or through a tabular layout. You can pull any kind of data from your Jira tickets and put it there in your release notes document. So if you have used JQL in your day-to-day work, you must have imagined now that though we are talking about release notes, with power of JQL, actually you can pull any kind of data from your Jira tickets to do ARN templates. So you can actually use ARN not just for release notes, but you can generate any kind of reports which are based on information available in your Jira tickets. So you can also use this app for creating all those reports that you use in your day-to-day work. Now this is about the templates. So you can create a template. This is a one-time activity. Once you have set all your templates, you don't have to do it on day-to-day basis. This is one-time activity, and you can reuse those templates for every release. So you can create a PDF template or a Confluence template or email or a JSON, Markdown. Those technical formats are also supported. Now, once you have created your templates, the next part is about automation. So how to automate the distribution of those release notes. That is handled by this section called rules, where you can create few rules. Just like Jira have that inbuilt automation feature, we have created a similar feature called rules. So let me go to one of the rules that I have created a few minutes back. This is a rule called demo. In the rules, there are two sections here. One is the rule actions and one is trigger. I will speak about the triggers first. So running a rule depends on the trigger that you have selected for that rule. So you can keep it manual. So you have to run this particular rule manually each time you have released. Or you can choose to automate this as well. So you can choose a version created trigger. So whenever a new version is created in your project, this rule will get triggered. Or similar way, whenever a version is marked as a release in your project, this rule will get triggered using this trigger. Then there is a trigger called schedule before end days of release. So suppose you have a report which is to be shared before one week before your release date to all your internal stakeholders, be it a development team or a QA team or a customer success team. So, and show them all the status of all the tasks that are involved in that release, which is scheduled 1 week after. So you can schedule such a report using ARN. Just create a template for that report and then attach that template to this rule and select this trigger here. Similar way, scheduled at intervals. So suppose every Monday morning you have a status meeting with all the stakeholders. You can schedule a meeting, a report for every Monday morning 9 a.m. So when you join the meeting, everyone have the latest report available in their inbox before they join the meeting. Sprint completed. Whenever a sprint in Jira is marked as completed, rule can be triggered in here. And last one is the webhook trigger, which is one of the interesting triggers. So when you save a rule using webhook trigger, it spits out a webhook URL, and you can actually use this webhook URL to trigger a rule in ARN from outside ARN or even from outside the Jira. So you can just use the webhook URL to trigger this particular rule. The classic use case of this trigger is that suppose you have a deployment script ready, So at the end of your deployment script, you just can ask that script to hit this webhook when the deployment is successfully completed. So whenever your deployment on your server is completed, that script will itself run this webhook, and then that webhook will in turn trigger the particular rule in ARN, and your release notes can be distributed to all your stakeholders. So a complete automation that you can achieve using this kind of a trigger. Now, when you create a rule, you have to assign some actions to that rule. What are the actions you want that rule to perform? So you can, like you can see here, based on the templates that we just saw in the template section, you can include different kind of rule actions in a particular rule. You can trigger multiple actions through a single rule. So for example, I have included these 5 rule actions. One is an email rule action, then there is a Confluence. There are a couple of release page rule actions, and then there is a widget rule action. So suppose I select email action here. So in the email action, I can select a PDF template which will go as an attachment to that email. Or I can also select a markdown, JSON, or an HTML as an attachment. So I just have to select a particular template which I have already created in the template section. Then there are recipients that you have to select for your email. So you can select a particular Jira users, or you can select a particular Jira role or a Jira group. So whatever the eligible persons from your Jira instance, they will be sent this email. Or you can also include issue users. So what are the Jira issues that are pulled in your release notes? They are assignees, reporters, or watchers. They can be recipients of your email action. Or there is a custom option where you can actually paste a comma separated list of email addresses. So suppose you have a list of your customers or your sponsors, you can include their email IDs in a comma separated way here. So this is about the email action. There is a Confluence action where you can create or update pages in your Confluence documentation space. So whenever you select a particular Confluence instance, which is already integrated with your ARN instance, you can select a particular space where you want to publish release notes. And here there are a bunch of options that are available. You can either create a new page in that space, or you can just update an existing page, or you can append or prepend to an existing page. So if you select append option here, you are prompted to provide a page ID of an existing page. And whenever this rule action will trigger, it will append the contents to that existing page. So you can keep a single release notes page in your Confluence documentation, and the same page can get updated, appended every time you have a new release. Then there are release page and widget actions. For this, I will head to this section first called release pages and widgets. This is another interesting feature of ARN where you can create your own release pages using ARN. So here is the example of our own release page created using ARN app. So this is how you can create and maintain a single place where all the release notes can be hosted on a separate release page. So this is one of the release pages that we are using for ARN itself. So you can see for every release, these are the releases 4.0, 4.1, and all the main features that are included in those releases are listed here. All this data is pulled from our Jira tickets automatically. We don't have to do it anything manually here. You can also have a subscribe option here where your customers or your users can subscribe, and they will get automated notifications whenever there is a new release posted on this release. This is an example of another release note that we maintain for our free version of ARN. And this is another template of release notes release page. Same way, you can also create widgets. So where you can publish your release notes within your web or mobile application. So for example, if I click on this icon, I can see release notes of ARN within ARN itself. So your users don't have to navigate to any external page. You can include such widgets within your application itself. And again, all this data is pulled from your Jira tickets in an automated fashion. You don't have to draft anything manually. You just have to set up your template one time and set up your rule one time. That's it. So ARN is one such application where you don't have to use it on daily basis. Once you set up your templates and rules, they get triggered automatically after every release, and they keep doing their work. You don't have to visit here again and again. Then at the last, there is a log section where you can see all the rules that are triggered and what is the status, whether those rules were successful. If in case any rule has failed, you can see the reasons for them. And if the rule is triggered successfully, you can see the output of that particular rule action. So this was an email that was sent today morning using an automated trigger, and this is how that email looked like. So these are all the Jira tickets information that support ticket that were our customers had reported in last 7 days. So this is an automated email that gets sent to all our internal team members every morning at 10:30 a.m. And this is how we keep track of all the stuff that are happening in our project, Jira project. So yeah, this is about this application called automated release notes for Jira, which will help you to draft and distribute your release notes, or create any kinds of reports which can pull data from your Jira tickets and automate the distribution of those reports. There is also another screen called cross project release notes. So this screen that I just showed you lies within a particular Jira project. But if you want to create release notes for multiple, Jira projects together, there is another screen called cross project ARN screen, where you can create templates for multiple projects and pull data from multiple projects into a single template. So suppose you have 2 different projects for Android and iOS app, then you can pull data from both these Jira projects into a single release notes document. So again, here the similar tabs you can see called rules and templates. Of course, release pages and widgets are not yet supported in this cross project screen, but otherwise whole functionality is pretty much similar. So this is about the demo of our app called automated release notes for Jira. I hope you find it useful. Please keep asking your question through chats. We are more than happy to answer. To end this session, I will just enlist few use cases for which you can use this ARN app. So you can post your release notes in HTML, JSON formats to a predefined URLs. Then you can also send release notes directly to your web application via widgets that I just showed you, or you can publish release notes to your Slack channels or MS Teams. You can maintain a PDF format of release notes in a cloud repository called like Dropbox, or you can, like I mentioned, generate other reports exploiting the flexibility of the app using the power of JQL. You can generate any kind of report and pull any kind of data from your Jira tickets. You can inform your internal players using schedule triggered, or keep your customers engaged. So there are a bunch of use cases that we already discussed earlier, which you can satisfy using this application. That is it about the application. At the end, we'll be sharing you a few further rates. So the pulse survey that I mentioned that we did for around 300 plus project leaders across the globe. We'll share the link for that survey. We can go through that, and there is a comprehensive guide which is published on our blog, where how to create and best practices for drafting release notes. So you can also go through that blog post. So my colleague will be sharing those links in the chat. You can copy those links and use it for yourself at the end. So this is it about the ARN, guys. If you have any questions now, we are heading into the Q&A round, and we'll be happy to answer your queries. And if there are still any unanswered queries, you can reach out to us on this email ID called sujeet@amoeboids.com. Or you can also visit our website, amoeboids.com. Or like I mentioned, we have a free version of our app in the Jira Marketplace. So you can head to Jira Marketplace straight away and search for automated release notes for Jira and install the free app straight away and start using it. So to just tell you at the end, the difference between the free app and the paid app, there is absolutely no difference between the two apps, except in the free app, the rule executions are capped to 5 rules per month. Apart from that, there is absolutely no difference between the free app and the paid app. So if you have any questions, we are more than happy to answer your questions now.
All right. So Sujit, we do have a couple of questions. The first one is, for a team who wants to start with release notes, should they directly jump to automation or start to set up manually and then over time go for automation?
So if you are starting it, I think you should first establish a process first. So establishing process means you should identify who are those users who are in charge of drafting release notes, because it's very important that there is a single person or at least a bunch of people who are doing it repeatedly on every release. Because release notes is an art. Drafting release notes is an art. You are directly communicating with your users, so you should maintain a common language of communication through your release notes. So first you have to identify the people, right people who are going to do it after every release. Second, you have to maintain a consistent documentation. So you must get ready some basic templates which will align with your brand elements, branding features, your logos, and the format of the documentation should be standard. So after every release, when you release note, they should follow a certain structure, so that they are relatable to your users when they read them after every release. And then next you have to decide what are the items that you want to fetch into your release notes. So like I mentioned earlier, if you are writing your release notes for your customers, you must be focusing on the new features or the bugs that you have fixed. But if you're writing release notes for your internal stakeholders, let's say your development team or your care team or your customer success team, then you might want them to know some other important things within your release. So first you have to decide the target audience and accordingly draft ready your draft release notes. And once you are set with this basic ingredients and structure in place, then you can start repeating this for a couple of releases. And then you can once you are comfortable doing it manually for a couple of releases, then you can think of going for automation kind of thing. So even in ARN, if you try to use an application called like ARN, there is an option called manual trigger, right? So you can initially you can keep using it manually, and once you are comfortable enough, then you can go for automated features of this application or any other application that you would want to use. I hope my answer is aligned with your query. If you have more queries, you can ask right now, or you can drop us an email. We'll be happy to elaborate.
Yeah, so we do have one more question from Lakshmi. Can we send release related information to external users using emails? So yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty much possible. In the demo I showed, there is an option to paste external email IDs in a comma separated way. So those external email can be sent to those external users as well. Interestingly, right now we are working on a interesting feature where you can pull data from external tools like Salesforce. So in the email action, you can automatically pull data from your, suppose you are using a tool like Salesforce and your customer database is lying in the Salesforce database, then you can give that endpoint access to ARN, and ARN will then automatically pull your customers from your Salesforce database. Similarly, now going forward, we are going to generalize this feature so that you can pull data of your customers or your external users from any other third-party application to ARN using standard APIs. So we are also building on that, and we'll definitely see that feature coming through in couple of months in the future. Any other question, Tejashree?
No, I mean, we did have one question that if we can customize the email templates, but we do have a template gallery that can be used to customize the email templates.
Yeah, so in the template gallery, we are providing some ready to use templates where they are serving certain use cases. But having said that, you have a inbuilt template builder where you can build your template from scratch in a way you want, and all the elements that you want, any branding elements you want to include, everything you can customize in this case. So all the layouts, all the fonts, everything you can customize according to your choice in the templates.
All right, I believe we are done with the questions, Sujit.
All right, guys. Like I mentioned, we have shared our contact details on the screen in the chats as well. So Tejasri, if you haven't shared already, you can just paste contact details. So people who want to reach out to us, you can copy those email IDs or websites and then reach out to us for any queries. We are happy to collaborate. We can get on a separate call if you want, and we can have a further detailed discussion around this if you want, if you are interested to implement automated release notes in your organization. Okay, so I hope this session was useful for you, all of you, and